After 30 years, my husband said I never did enough for him. When my husband looked at me across the dinner table and said those words, I felt something inside me go quiet. Not angry, not hurt, just quiet. Like a candle being blown out gently. He said I never did enough for him after 30 years, 3 decades of cooking his meals, washing his clothes, raising our children, building a home. And he said it wasn't enough. I didn't cry that night, I just nodded. I put down my fork. I looked at the meatloaf I had made from his mother's recipe, the mashed potatoes whipped exactly how he liked them, the green beans seasoned with butter and garlic. And I thought about all the dinners, all the mornings, all the years. Maybe you're wondering what I did wrong. Maybe you're thinking there must have been something, some failure on my part. Some reason why a man would look at his wife after 30 years and feel nothing but disappointment. I wondered that too. I spent nights lying awake going through memories like old photographs, trying to find the moment where I failed him, the moment where I stopped being enough. But here's what I learned. Sometimes the problem isn't what you did or didn't do. Sometimes the problem is that some people will never see what's right in front of them, they'll never count the sacrifices, they'll never add up the love. They'll just keep looking for what's missing. And no matter how much you give, there will always be an empty space in their heart that you can't fill. This is my story. Not a story about a villain and a victim. Just a story about 2 people who built a life together and how one of them woke up one day and decided none of it mattered. Let me take you back to the beginning. Let me show you how 30 years can disappear with just a few words. I met David when I was 23 years old. He was 25. It was at a friend's birthday party in the summer, one of those warm evenings where the air feels soft and everything seems possible. He was standing by the fence in the backyard, drinking lemonade and talking to someone I didn't know. He had kind eyes, that's what I noticed first, kind eyes and a gentle smile. We talked for 2 hours that night about nothing important, about music and movies and where we grew up. He told me about his job as a mechanic. I told him about my work at the local library. It felt easy, natural, like talking to someone I'd known my whole life. When he asked for my number, I gave it to him without hesitation. We dated for 2 years before he proposed. He did it at the lake where we'd had our first real date. No fancy restaurant, no big gestures. Just the 2 of us sitting on the dock, watching the sun go down. He pulled out a small ring and asked me if I wanted to spend my life with him. I said yes before he even finished the question. Our wedding was simple, small church, close family and friends. My mother cried, his father shook his hand and told him he was a lucky man. I wore my grandmother's veil, David wore his best suit. We promised to love each other, to honor each other, to be there through sickness and health, through good times and bad. We meant those promises. At least I did. We moved into a small apartment on the east side of town, 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a kitchen barely big enough for both of us to stand in. But it was ours. We painted the walls together, we picked out furniture from thrift stores, we made it a home. Those first years were good, we were happy, we were building something. David worked long hours at the auto shop. He'd come home tired with grease under his fingernails and oil stains on his shirts. But he'd smile when he walked through the door. He'd kiss my forehead and ask what was for dinner. We'd eat together at our small table. We'd watch television. We'd talk about our days. Simple things, ordinary things. But they felt special because we were together. I got pregnant with our first child after 3 years of marriage, a boy. We named him Michael. David cried when he held him for the first time. I'd never seen him cry before. He looked at our son with such wonder, such pure love. He promised he'd be the best father he could be. He promised he'd take care of us. And for a long time, he did. Michael was followed by Sarah 2 years later, then Emma 3 years after that. Our apartment got too small. We saved every penny we could, we watched our budget carefully, we sacrificed luxuries, we planned. And eventually, we bought a house. Nothing fancy, 3 bedrooms, 1.5 bathrooms, a small yard with a tree in the back. But it was perfect. It was ours. I became a stay-at-home mother, it wasn't really a choice. Daycare for 3 children cost more than I made at the library, and David's income was enough, barely, but enough. So I stayed home. I took care of the children, I took care of the house, I took care of everything. And I didn't mind, I really didn't. I loved being there for my babies, watching them grow, being part of every moment. David worked harder as the years went on, more hours, more overtime. Trying to provide, trying to give us a good life. I understood, I supported him. When he came home exhausted, I had dinner ready. When he needed quiet, I kept the children calm. When he wanted to relax on weekends, I took care of everything so he could rest. I thought I was being a good wife. I thought I was doing what a partnership meant. The children grew, Michael started school, then Sarah, then Emma. The house was always busy, always full of noise and laughter and chaos. I was always moving, always doing. Lunches to pack, homework to check, clothes to wash, floors to clean, groceries to buy, meals to cook, doctor's appointments, school meetings, birthday parties. It never stopped. But I never complained. This was my life, this was my purpose. And I was grateful for it. David and I still had good moments. Date nights when his mother could watch the kids, quiet evenings after the children went to bed, holidays together, birthdays, anniversaries. We celebrated 20 years of marriage at a nice restaurant. He gave me a necklace, I gave him a watch. We toasted to 20 more years. We meant it. Or at least, I thought we did. But somewhere in those years, something started to shift. Small things at first. He stopped asking about my day, he stopped noticing when I changed my hair or wore something new, he stopped saying thank you when dinner was ready. He stopped kissing me goodnight. Small things, easy to ignore, easy to explain away as stress or tiredness or just the natural progression of a long marriage. I told myself it was normal, that all couples go through this. That the passion fades but the partnership remains, that love changes but it doesn't disappear. I told myself we were fine, we were solid. We had 3 beautiful children, we had a home, we had 30 years together. Nothing could break that. Nothing could erase all we'd built. I was wrong. It started with a comment about the house. David came home from work one evening and looked around the living room, toys on the floor, dishes in the sink, laundry basket by the stairs. Normal chaos from a day with 3 kids. He sighed a long, heavy sigh. And he said, "Do you ever clean this place?" I was surprised. I'd cleaned that morning, but the kids had come home from school, life had happened. I explained that, I said I'd pick everything up after dinner. He just shook his head. He said, "It's always a mess, I work all day and come home to this." Then he went to the bedroom and closed the door. I stood in the kitchen for a moment, confused, hurt. But I brushed it off. He'd had a bad day, that's all, everyone has bad days. I picked up the toys, I washed the dishes, I folded the laundry, I made everything perfect. When I called him for dinner, he came out, he ate in silence. He didn't apologize. He didn't say anything at all. The comments continued. Small jabs, little criticisms. The food was too salty, the food was too bland, why didn't I make something different, why did I always make the same things? The bathroom wasn't clean enough, the bed wasn't made right, the yard needed work, the car needed washing. Nothing I did was quite right. Nothing was quite enough. I tried harder. I woke up earlier, I stayed up later, I deep cleaned every room, I tried new recipes, I made lists and schedules. I wanted to prove I was doing my job, that I was being a good wife, a good homemaker, that I deserved his respect. But the more I tried, the more he found wrong. It was like nothing I did mattered. Like he couldn't see any of it. Our children noticed. Michael asked me once why Dad was always angry. I told him Dad wasn't angry, just tired, just stressed from work. I made excuses, I covered for him. I didn't want our children to think their father was unhappy. I didn't want them to feel the tension that was growing like a wall between us. Sarah asked me if everything was okay. She was 16 then, old enough to sense when something was wrong. I hugged her and told her everything was fine, that Mom and Dad were just going through a busy time, that all marriages have seasons. She looked at me with those knowing eyes. She didn't believe me. But she didn't push, she just hugged me back and whispered, "I love you, Mom." The intimacy between us disappeared. We slept in the same bed, but we might as well have been strangers. He turned away from me at night. When I reached for his hand, he pulled away. When I tried to talk about it, he said he was tired. Always tired. Too tired to talk, too tired to care, too tired to try. I suggested counseling once. We were sitting at the kitchen table, the kids were at school, it was just us, a rare moment of quiet. I said maybe we should talk to someone, maybe we needed help working through whatever was happening between us. He looked at me like I'd suggested something ridiculous. He said, "We don't need counseling, we're fine, you're overreacting." But we weren't fine. I knew it, he knew it. The space between us kept growing. We became roommates, co-parents, two people living in the same house but existing in different worlds. He spent more time in the garage, more time watching television in the basement. More time anywhere but with me. I started to feel invisible. I'd walk into a room and he wouldn't look up, I'd speak and he wouldn't respond, I'd cook his favorite meal and he'd barely notice. It was like I was fading. Like I was becoming a ghost in my own home, the home I'd cared for, the home I'd made, the home I'd given everything to. Friends noticed too. My best friend Linda asked me during coffee one afternoon if things were okay. I gave her the same lines I'd given everyone else. "We're fine, just busy, just life." She touched my hand and said, "You can talk to me, you know that, right?" I nodded. But I didn't talk. Because talking would make it real. And I wasn't ready for it to be real. Our 28th anniversary came and went. No dinner, no card, no acknowledgement at all. I didn't say anything, I just marked it silently. Another year, another milestone, invisible. I wondered if he even remembered. I wondered if he cared. The children started leaving. Michael went to college, then Sarah, then Emma got accepted to a school 3 states away. Our house got quieter, emptier. It was supposed to be our time, the time when we'd reconnect, when we'd remember why we fell in love, when we'd enjoy being just us again. But instead, the silence got louder. The distance got wider. I tried to plan things, date nights, weekend trips, anything to bring us together. He always had an excuse. Too tired, too much work, maybe next time. Next time never came. I stopped asking, I stopped trying, I stopped hoping. I just existed, day after day, going through the motions. Being a wife in name only. One night I looked at him sitting in his chair, staring at the television. I realized I didn't know him anymore. This man I'd spent 30 years with, this man I'd given my life to. He was a stranger. And I think I was a stranger to him too. We'd forgotten how to see each other. Or maybe we'd stopped wanting to. I asked myself when it had happened. When did we stop being partners? When did we stop being in love? Was there a moment, a day, a conversation I missed? Or did it happen slowly, so slowly that neither of us noticed until it was too late? I didn't have an answer. I just had the hollow feeling in my chest that something precious had died. And neither of us had even attended the funeral. The night it all fell apart was ordinary, completely ordinary. It was a Thursday. I'd made meatloaf for dinner, David's favorite. I'd spent the afternoon making it exactly how his mother used to make it, the way he'd always loved. I set the table, 2 places, just him and me. The kids were all away at college now, it was just us. Like it used to be, like I'd hoped it could be again. He came home at 6:30, I heard the garage door open, I heard his footsteps. I'd already plated the food, it was still warm, steam rising from the potatoes. I smiled when he walked in, I said, "Dinner's ready." He didn't smile back. He just sat down. We ate in silence for a few minutes. I kept glancing at him, waiting for him to say something, anything. "Thank you, this is good, how was your day?" Nothing came. Just the sound of forks on plates, the sound of chewing, the sound of silence that had become our marriage. Finally I spoke. I said, "I was thinking we could go to that new Italian place this weekend, just the two of us. It's been a while since we went out." I tried to sound light, casual, hopeful. He didn't look up, he just kept eating. Then he said, "I'm busy this weekend." "Doing what?" I asked. He shrugged, "Just busy." I felt frustration rising in my chest, but I kept my voice calm. I said, "David, we need to spend time together, we need to talk, we need to work on us." He put down his fork, he looked at me then, really looked at me. But there was no warmth in his eyes, no connection. He said, "Work on what? There's nothing to work on." "There's everything to work on," I said, my voice cracked a little. "We barely talk, we don't do anything together, we're like strangers living in the same house." He leaned back in his chair, he crossed his arms. He said, "That's your fault." The words hung in the air. I stared at him, "My fault? How is this my fault?" "You've never done enough," he said, just like that, calm, matter of fact, like he was commenting on the weather. "You've never really tried, you've never put in the effort I needed." I felt like I'd been slapped, I couldn't breathe for a second. "What are you talking about?" I whispered. "I've done everything for you for 30 years, I've cooked your meals, I've cleaned your house, I've raised your children, I've supported you in everything, what more could I have done?" He shook his head. "You don't get it, you've never gotten it, you just did the basic things, the things you were supposed to do, but you never really tried to make me happy, you never really cared about what I needed." "What did you need?" I asked, my hands were shaking. "Tell me, what did you need that I didn't give you?" "I needed a partner," he said, "someone who understood me, someone who made me feel alive, someone who was exciting. You're just ordinary, you've always been ordinary," and I settled. The word "settled" hit me like a punch to the stomach. I stood up, I had to stand up, I had to move. I walked to the sink, I gripped the edge of the counter, I tried to steady myself. My whole body was trembling. "I settled for this life," he continued behind me. "I settled for this marriage, I could have done better, I could have had more, but I stayed, and you never even appreciated it, you never even tried to be better, to be more." I turned around, tears were streaming down my face. "I gave you everything," I said, "everything I had, every day for 30 years. How dare you say I never tried? How dare you say you settled? You chose me, you married me, you made vows to me." "I know what I did," he said coldly. "And I regret it." Those words broke something inside me, something fundamental, something that couldn't be repaired. He regretted marrying me, he regretted our life, our children, everything we'd built. It meant nothing to him. I meant nothing to him. "Why did you stay then?" I asked through my tears. "If I was such a disappointment, if you settled, why didn't you leave?" He stood up, he pushed his chair back. He said, "Because leaving is complicated, because it was easier to stay, because I'm not a quitter, but don't mistake staying for happiness, I haven't been happy in years." I wiped my face, I tried to control my voice. "And you think this is all my fault? You think you have no responsibility in this? You stopped trying too, you stopped seeing me, you stopped caring. When did you last ask me how I was? When did you last thank me? When did you last look at me like you loved me? Love, he scoffed, we're too old for that. Love fades, that's life. I thought you understood that. I thought you accepted it. I accepted that love changes, I said. Not that it dies, not that it turns into contempt. You look at me with contempt, David, like I'm nothing, like everything I've done means nothing. He grabbed his jacket from the chair. I'm going out, he said. I can't do this right now. Where are you going? I asked. Does it matter? He walked toward the door, then he stopped. He turned back. He said, maybe you should think about what I said. Maybe you should ask yourself if you really gave this marriage everything, because from where I'm standing, you gave it the bare minimum. Then he left. The door closed behind him. I heard his car start. I heard him drive away. And I stood in my kitchen, in the kitchen I'd cleaned thousands of times, where I'd cooked thousands of meals, where I'd celebrated birthdays and holidays and ordinary Tuesdays. And I felt my legs give out. I slid down to the floor. And I cried. I cried for hours, big heaving sobs, the kind that hurt your chest, the kind that leave you exhausted. I cried for the years I'd given, for the love I'd poured out, for the person I'd been, for the marriage I'd believed in, for the man I'd trusted. For all of it gone. All of it meaningless. When I finally stopped crying, I just sat there, on the kitchen floor, looking at the dinner still on the table, the meatloaf, the potatoes, the green beans. Made with love, made with care. And he'd eaten it while telling me I never did enough. The irony wasn't lost on me. I thought about calling someone, Linda, my sister, one of my children. But what would I say? Your father says I'm not enough. Your father regrets marrying me. Your father thinks I ruined his life. No. I couldn't do that. I couldn't put that burden on them. This was between David and me. This was our failure, not theirs. I got up eventually. My knees hurt from sitting on the hard floor. I looked at the dinner table. And I made a decision. I cleaned it up, I put the food away, I washed the dishes, I wiped down the table. And then I walked upstairs, I got ready for bed, I lay down in our bed in the dark. And I waited. David came home after midnight, I heard him stumble in, I smelled beer he'd been drinking. He didn't come upstairs right away, I heard him moving around downstairs. Finally he came up, he got into bed, he turned away from me. Within minutes he was snoring. Like nothing had happened. Like he hadn't just destroyed everything. I didn't sleep that night, I just lay there. Thinking, replaying his words, analyzing 30 years of marriage. Wondering where I'd gone wrong. Wondering if he was right. Maybe I hadn't done enough, maybe I'd been ordinary, maybe I should have been more, done more, been different. But then anger came. Quiet anger, the kind that burns slow and steady. Who was he to judge my efforts? Who was he to say I never tried? He wasn't there every day, he didn't see the endless work, the endless sacrifices, the endless choices I made for our family, for him. He went to work, he came home, that was his contribution. And he thought he was the one who settled. I realized something in those dark hours. I'd been waiting for him to see me, to appreciate me, to value me. For years, maybe forever. I'd been performing for an audience that wasn't watching. I'd been giving my heart to someone who didn't want it. I'd been loving someone who saw it as an obligation. Not a gift. And I couldn't do it anymore. Claude is AI and can make mistakes. Please double-check responses. The next morning I got up early. David was still sleeping. I went downstairs and made coffee. I sat at the kitchen table, the same table where everything had shattered. And I thought about what I wanted, what I needed, what I deserved. I'd spent 30 years being a wife, being a mother, being what everyone else needed. But who was I? What did I want? When was the last time I'd asked myself that? When was the last time I'd chosen something just for me? I couldn't remember. Maybe never. David came downstairs around 8. He looked rough, tired, hungover. He poured coffee without looking at me. He sat across from me. We were silent. Finally, he said, "I'm sorry about last night. I shouldn't have said those things." I looked at him. "Do you take them back?" He hesitated. I was upset. I was harsh. "That's not what I asked. Do you take back what you said? Do you actually think I did enough? Do you not regret marrying me?" He couldn't meet my eyes. "It's complicated." "It's not complicated," I said quietly. "Either you meant what you said or you didn't. Which is it?" He rubbed his face. "I don't know what you want me to say. I want you to say the truth." He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "I guess I feel like we grew apart, like we became different people. And maybe I blamed you for that. Maybe that wasn't fair, but the feelings are real. I'm not happy, haven't been for a while." "Neither have I said, "but I was trying to fix us, I was trying to make it work, were you?" He shook his head slowly. "No, I wasn't. I think I checked out a long time ago." At least he was being honest, at least there was that. "So what do we do now?" I asked. "I don't know," he said. "Do you want a divorce?" The word hung between us. Divorce. After 30 years, after everything. It felt impossible, but staying felt more impossible. "I don't know what I want," I admitted, "but I know I can't keep living like this. I can't keep being invisible in my own marriage. I can't keep giving everything and getting nothing back." "I do appreciate what you've done," he said. But his voice lacked conviction, like he was saying what he thought he should say, not what he felt. "No, you don't," I said gently, "and that's okay. You don't have to appreciate it, but I'm done trying to make you see it. I'm done trying to prove my worth to you. I know my worth, even if you don't." He looked surprised. Maybe he expected me to fight, to beg, to try to save our marriage. The old me would have. But something had changed, something had broken and then healed differently. Stronger. Clearer. "I think we should separate," I said. "Not forever, not necessarily, but for now. I think you need space to figure out what you want, and I need space to figure out who I am without you." He nodded slowly. "Maybe you're right." We talked logistics, practical things. He'd move to his brother's place for a while. I'd stay in the house. We'd tell the kids together. We'd figure out finances. We'd be civil, we'd be respectful. Even if the love was gone, we could still be decent. We owed each other that much. We owed our children that much. David moved out that weekend. He packed his clothes, his toiletries, some personal items. It didn't take long. 30 years packed into a few boxes. I watched him carry them to his car. I felt sad, but I also felt relief. The tension was gone, the pretending was over. We could both breathe. After he left, I walked through the empty house. It felt different, not lonely, just quiet. Peaceful almost. I sat in the living room, in the house I'd cleaned and cared for. And I realized it was mine now. Not ours. Mine. My space, my home, my life. The first few weeks were hard. I had to tell the children. That was the worst part. Michael was angry at his father, angry at the situation. Sarah cried. She asked if there was any chance we'd work it out. Emma was quiet. She just hugged me and said, "I'm here for you, Mom." I appreciated them, their support, their love. But I also told them not to take sides. Their father was still their father. What happened between us didn't change that. They needed to maintain their relationships with him. This was between David and me. Not between him and them. I started filling my days differently. I'd spent 30 years on a schedule built around other people. Now I could build my own schedule. I started taking walks in the morning, long walks through the neighborhood. Noticing things I'd never noticed before, gardens, birds, the way the light hit the trees. I joined a book club, something I'd wanted to do for years but never had time for. I read again, really read. Books that made me think, books that made me feel. I discussed them with other women, women who had their own stories, their own lives. I wasn't alone. I was part of something. I took a painting class. I'd always loved art but never pursued it. Now I had time. I wasn't good at it, but I didn't care. It felt good to create something, to express something, to make something that was just mine. No one else's expectations, no one else's judgments. Just me and the canvas and the paint. Linda was there through everything. She'd take me to lunch, she'd let me talk, she'd let me cry when I needed to. She never said, "I told you so," even though she'd seen the problems before I had. She just supported me. True friendship, the kind that holds you up when you can't stand on your own. I started therapy too. I needed to process everything, to understand my part in what happened, to heal the wounds. My therapist helped me see patterns, ways I'd made myself small, ways I'd prioritized everyone else's happiness over my own, ways I'd lost myself in trying to be what others needed. It wasn't easy work. But it was necessary. David and I talked occasionally, brief conversations, checking in, being civil. He seemed different too, quieter. Maybe he was going through his own realization, maybe he was struggling with what he'd done, what he'd said. I didn't ask. It wasn't my business anymore. Months passed, 6 months, then 8, then almost a year. People asked if we were getting divorced. I said we were separated, still figuring things out. The truth was, I was figuring myself out. Whether I wanted to go back to that marriage, whether I could, whether I should. One evening David called. He asked if he could come over to talk. I said yes. I was curious, nervous, but also calm. I wasn't the same woman he'd left. I'd grown, changed. Found myself again. Or maybe found myself for the first time. He came to the house, our house. He looked around. "It looks different," he said. "I redecorated a bit," I said. "I'd changed things, painted a wall, bought new curtains, made it mine, coffee." We sat at the kitchen table, again. Where so many conversations had happened, where everything had ended. Where maybe something new could begin. Or not. I was okay either way. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," he said, "about us, about what I said, about everything." And I prompted gently. "You were right, I checked out, I stopped trying, I blamed you for problems that were just as much my fault, maybe more." He looked at his coffee. "I took you for granted, I stopped seeing you, I stopped appreciating everything you did, and I'm sorry." "Thank you," I said, "I appreciate that." "I want to try again," he said. "If you're willing, I want to go to counseling, I want to work on us, I want to be better, do better." I'd waited to hear those words for so long, fought for them, cried for them. But now that they were here, I felt something unexpected. Hesitation. Because I'd built a life in his absence, a life I liked, a life where I was enough. Where I didn't need validation. Where I was whole on my own. "I don't know if I want that," I said honestly. "I don't know if I want to go back to what we were." He looked hurt. "I thought you'd want to try, I thought you'd be happy." "I'm not unhappy," I said. "That's the thing, I've been healing, growing, finding parts of myself I'd lost. I'm not sure I want to risk losing that again." "I wouldn't ask you to lose yourself," he said. "I want you to be you, the real you." "But do you?" I asked. "Or do you want me to go back to being the woman who made your life comfortable, who took care of everything, who disappeared into your needs?" He was quiet. "I see your point." "I'm not saying no," I said carefully. "I'm saying I need to think about it, I need to be sure for both of us. Rushing back because we're scared to be alone isn't the answer, we need to be sure we're coming back for the right reasons." He nodded. "That's fair, take your time, I'll be here." After he left, I sat in the quiet again. Thinking, feeling. I didn't have an answer. But I knew one thing. Whatever I decided, it would be for me. Not out of fear, not out of obligation, not out of what I was supposed to do. For me. For my happiness. For my life. Months later, I still don't have a final answer about David and me. We're still separated, but we're talking more. We started counseling, both individual and couples. It's slow work, hard work. But it's honest work. We're both trying to understand what happened, how we got here, whether we can find our way back. Or if we should. What I've learned is this. A marriage takes two people trying, two people seeing each other, two people choosing each other every day. If only one person is doing that work, it's not a partnership. It's a burden. And no one should have to carry that burden alone. I also learned that I'm stronger than I thought. That I have value beyond what I do for others, that my worth isn't measured in clean floors and cooked meals. That I'm a whole person, with dreams and desires and needs of my own. And those things matter. I matter. My children have been incredible through all of this. They've supported me, they've told me they're proud of me. Michael said, "Mom, I never realized how much you sacrificed. Thank you for everything you did for us." Those words meant more than he'll ever know. Because they saw. Even if their father didn't. They saw. I've continued my painting classes, I'm getting better. I had a piece in a local art show, nothing major, just a community event. But it was mine. Something I created, something that had nothing to do with being a wife or a mother. Just me, my vision, my expression. It felt amazing. I've made new friends. Women who inspire me, who challenge me, who remind me that life doesn't end at 53. That there's still so much to experience, to learn, to become. I'm not defined by my marriage or by my past. I'm defined by who I choose to be right now. Sometimes I look back on those 30 years and I feel sad. Sad for the time lost, sad for the words said, sad for the love that faded. But I also feel grateful. Grateful for my children, grateful for the lessons, grateful for the strength I found when everything fell apart. David asked me recently what I needed to feel ready to try again. I told him the truth. I need to know you see me, the real me, not the idea of me, not the version of me that serves you, but me, with my flaws and my strengths and my own dreams. I need to know you're willing to support my growth, not just tolerate it, support it, celebrate it. He said he understood, he said he wanted that too. Time will tell if he means it, if he can do it, if we can build something new from the ashes of what we had. But here's what I know for certain. Whether David and I find our way back to each other or not, I've already found my way back to myself. And that's worth everything.